and I'm going to let him take it from there. Steve Niebling, always good to talk to you, my friend. How are you this afternoon?
Hey, it's great to talk. It's great to talk to you, Cliff. Thanks for taking my call. I'm glad that you asked me to be on the show because this has been an issue that I don't think a lot of people are paying attention to. Because when we look at the marijuana industry, Michigan already estimates that if marijuana were to be legalized, there would be sales of more than $700 million, making
Wow.
it a very large industry. Yeah, so there's a lot of money to go around. So it's not a surprise that we're seeing chiefs of staff of House and Senate committees who, quitting their jobs as lobbyists for the medical marijuana industry. The former House Speaker, Rick Johnson, he worked on the medical marijuana legislation, and he has been a lobbyist as well for the marijuana industry. And he's going to be, he's been nominated to be on the 5-member board that's going to issue the lucrative medical marijuana licenses. Now, he's got quite a conflict here, at least in terms of he knows, he's been in the game, he's been a lobbyist for the marijuana industry, and so he's going to be able to navigate the complex laws a lot quicker, than you and me would be able to. And we have, there also is former House Rep Eileen, I think Kawa, from White Lake Township. She received $15,000 worth of shares in a medical marijuana company in 2015. And her husband, who was a Missouri floor leader, helped push the medical marijuana bill through the legislature in 2015 when they sort of got stuck. This package of medical bills that he sort of pushed through. Now, he is supposed to, according to his agreement, he and his wife are supposed to get 300,000 common shares in cannabis science, which at the time when they decided they were going to invest, he's put in $15,000. So you have this big industry that is going to bring in a lot of money. And the people who are helping make the decisions of who can open a dispensary, where they can open it, where you can open commercial growth, these kind of things, you have people who are connected to the industry or have been lobbyists or know or have worked for people in the state Senate and House. So they're split up. And I was talking to a guy right now who is a caregiver, which enables someone to grow and give medical marijuana to up to 5 patients, which is how it's gone since the law was passed. And the problem with this issue is that, so when this guy was looking into it, this has been a passion of his. And when you think of marijuana, you kind of, sometimes the stereotype of this hippie sort of take millennials, shop. But I mean, the reality is, in Detroit, even dispensaries are owned by a lot of Detroiters, and there are a lot of Detroiters who are going to get involved in this. And if you want to get involved, it's turning out to be prohibitive.
And let me jump in here, Steve. Let me jump in here, Steve, because before I heard you talk about this issue on 910 AM Superstation, I was talking to an attorney who's involved in this, and I guess one of the proposals that was floated initially by this board or this commission, whatever they are, was that you had, I think, you had to have $300,000 in the bank or that type of money up front to be involved. And my thought immediately was, the wealthy folks are trying to monopolize the cannabis industry so that they can get wealthier and that they can kind of lock the smaller guys and little guys and the local guys out. Is that essentially what we're seeing happen in the state of Michigan right now? And is Governor Snyder kind of facilitating that?
Well, Governor Snyder, I don't know if he's so much facilitating. He's certainly not staying away from it. He's not making sure that the people that he's putting in place to make his decisions aren't somehow connected to it. But I mean, his decision, to put Rick Johnson on the board, a guy who has been working as a lobbyist for the medical marijuana legislation, that does suggest, that Governor Snyder either wasn't concerned about the connections or is complicit in putting people in place who are eventually going to profit off of this. And, there's the big fear that these big operators in the industry are going to squeeze out the current caregivers and patients who rely on an affordable product. So, when you get these big people coming in, you kind of think about how places like, Walmart have sort of made cheap these things that we would get. To get a fan, we used to go to buy a fan where it's made in America, and it was, the quality now.
Right.
So you have this problem now, too, where you're having people who are never even interested in medical marijuana suddenly seeing, the green for the money this time and saying, I want to get involved in this, but having no passion for this. And that can really have a detrimental effect on the people who rely on dispensaries to get the medicine.
Yes. What is the best way, Steve Kneeling, for us to inform ourselves about this? You always amaze me with the information that you come up with. Should we go to Motor City Muckraker and read about this? Are there other references that you would recommend that people can, really study it and find the whole truth as much as we can get it about what's happening in this growing cannabis industry in the state of Michigan?
Yeah, actually, the Detroit Free Press has done a really tremendous job, and they're the ones who broke this original story about the financial connection to the marijuana industry, and they've done a really good job. They have a story about the feeding frenzy that has become the medical marijuana industry. And there's some really good reporting on that. People can also stay up to date on their requirements for becoming a dispensary or becoming a grower. If people are just interested in seeing where these new rules are going, on the Michigan Department of Community Health website, where they have a marijuana section, and that helps spell out what's going on. And, this board was, if you remember, the board, the reason they have this board is because when voters approved the medical marijuana legislation, there was no stipulation in the ballot measure about dispensaries. So, his idea, the state Supreme Court and the appellate court both said medical marijuana dispensaries are essentially illegal unless you're only selling to the 5 people that you are a caregiver to, which nobody's going to open up a shop for 5 people.
Right.
So essentially they're all illegal. And Detroit, has taken a more progressive approach to this and said, well, we understand the need that people have for it, and we're going to let people open up dispensaries, but we're going to make sure that they're not opened up too close to schools and other places where children are or church goers are.
Let me ask you another question too about of the medical marijuana dispensaries that we have now, and they are dotted all across Detroit and other communities. I see them all over the place. Have there been any demonstrable problems or changes in community because of them? And I ask this, Steve, because I've tried to monitor them pretty closely. I know where they all are in my neighborhood. I know where they are in a lot of other places in the city. And I've always, driven by, talked to people who live nearby, have relatives near some of them. I've talked to some city officials. I haven't been able to find any really serious recurring problems with these facilities, despite some of the complaints and arguments from some of the opponents. What is the truth about that? Are there any effects, be they adverse or not, on the community when you have a dispensary?
Well, it's really hard to tell, especially in a place like Detroit, because you have this the city council approved a measure that said that if you want to open up a dispensary, you have to apply. So, we had those names originally. There were about 125 people who had applied. But there are also, dispensaries opening up without getting any of the permission. So it's impossible to keep an eye out on all of the dispensaries. But from what I'm hearing from the city, from Corporation Council, and also the building authority, which is involved in the business and the other side, is that there haven't been that many problems, especially not the kind that anti-marijuana people have been suggesting. There's no shootings and robberies and that kind of thing. Now, there have been a couple shootings at a couple of dispensaries, but that happens anywhere there's a cash register.
But no more so than the local party store or gas station, you're saying?
I'd say even less so, actually.
Wow. Okay.
What you would see at the gas station. And I think, a large part of the reason is a lot of these places, they have the way they have the parking, they have security guards in there. A lot of these party stores don't have security guards, so they're very well guarded. And I think, given many of their locations, they're not a place that really tends to attract crime. I do hear from residents quite a bit saying, it's a pain, they don't like the traffic, but I haven't heard many outrageous problems that are just proportionally to average.
Right. And I just wanted to get a fair assessment. We are just about out of time, Steve Niebling. I can talk to you all day, but I do have one more question for you, and that is there any way to exert any type of pressure to ensure that this process is as fair and inclusive as it can and should be?
Well, unfortunately, the way that it was set up, it made it really impossible to do that. There were public meetings of this 5-member board that was appointed by the governor. Those meetings are not over. Unless you could go to Lansing, you just weren't going to be able to have a say in what was going on. So the idea in the bill that was passed by the legislature was to give this 5-member board an opportunity to come up with some rules, but it just hasn't been one of those processes where you feel like people really had a say in what happened. And it's a complicated process. It seems like the rules are changing all the time. So, at this point, the 5-member board has already sort of made its decision, it made its rules, and we're talking about very expensive. We're talking about really $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 just to get started in something like this.
Right.
So you're going to see a lot more expenses. You're going to see a lot fewer people who are going to be growing, and ultimately that's going to be...
Well, I will say this because the clock is ticking. I don't mean to cut you off, but fortunately, we have outstanding journalists like Steve Niebling who can tell us what